Namaste, my name is Abhishek Sinha, and today I'm going to start my first ever video podcast with Sri Akhil Minocha, who is like elder brother to me, and I'm very excited because this is going to be my first podcast. And between me and Akhil, we share a lot of common thoughts and passion, and he's one of the reasons why I'm recording this podcast. We'll talk a little bit more on that how he has inspired me to get this podcast, but that we'll hear it from him. Um, Talking about Akhil, he has more than 2.5 decades of illustrious career in the information software sales and marketing. But I have seen, I've gone through his LinkedIn profile, and I've seen he has done much more than what I am, telling you. Apart from the sales and marketing, he's a writer. He's writing a book which is going to hit the stalls very soon. He is running his own, audio podcast on various platforms and whatnot. I mean, we'll talk more with him, and we'll see. We'll talk that what inspired him to do all these things and how he, carries himself. Because the most important thing that I am impressed with his persona is he keeps himself so calm in the most annoying conditions, and that's something I would really want to ask, that how he keeps his calm and composed himself calm and composed, and doesn't lose his patience. So that's something which I wish I could learn from him. But before I jump onto all those things, I would like to share my aspiration to start this podcast, and uh, for a simple reason that cracked into my mind. So typically we go and we love to put on our YouTube or podcast and listen to people who are already famous, successful, and kind of role models for hundreds and thousands of people. But I mean, I've not been able to understand this thing. I mean, from a very long time, that are those people are going to dictate that how we should conduct in our life, and how, and they are going to tell us the definition of the success. Because there are millions and billions of people across the globe who are successful, who are doing good, who are inspiring people, but yet they are not famous. So that's the crux of this podcast. But what I'm trying to do, or what I'm trying to start is, uh, I'm going to pick people from all walks of life, people whom I know, who are my friends, who are my colleagues, who are elder to me, who are even younger to me, and I'll pick up those personality and who can share a lot to us and can inspire us. Because just because they're not so famous, we shouldn't ignore them. And I think that's the least I can do to acknowledge them, the kind of impact they're making in my life, and probably they can make impact in your life as well. So having said that, let's start my first ever podcast with Mr. Akhil Minocha. Of course, he's everything and anything but famous. So, namaste, Akhilji. Thank you for accepting this invitation, and let's start with my podcast. If you can just briefly introduce yourself to my audience, and then we can start our round of questions.
Thank you, Abhishek. It's been a pleasure to be there in the your first episode of your podcast series. So, indeed, a pleasure. So let me introduce myself to the fellow listeners out here. Abhishek has been kind enough to make a brief introduction, but just to add on, so I've been in the industry for, as Abhishek rightly said, for more than 2.5 decades, and I've had a blend of experience in technology and telecom, and across different roles. So I've been in sales for quite a few years, but apart from sales, I've also had an exposure on business development, program management, delivery, right, and which includes also partnerships and alliances. And of course, marketing. So it's been an interesting career, and with a focus on enterprises, right? So on being focused towards enterprises. So that's on the professional side. More about Akhil Minocha. Well, Abhishek has covered a bit on in terms of some of my passions on which I've been following, which includes the podcast series called Reverse and Onward, which have started off. and also a book, which in fact I had earlier planned to launch earlier, but now that would soon follow, which is a book by the same name, talking about my own reversal journey, and we'll look at that later in this particular podcast. I tend to believe that am generally a person who loves to network with people, so I make good friends. And I like to be with some of my friends who matter to me, and Abhishek's been always definitely very dear to me as a work colleague and as a friend, and I'm glad he invited me, right? And I've always been a public speaker throughout my life, so these are some of the tenets. And yes, just to add on, I've also off and on through the years mentored technology companies, startups, right? So that's another thing which I've done. Wherever I've found time over the last decade. So I'm associated with the TIE Delhi, which is the Indus Entrepreneurs. I'm the charter member in Delhi. So that also gives me a forum to interact, outside of work with different technology startups and enterprises. So there's a thin line between what you do at work and what and the other things which help you in your profession. So that's in a nutshell an introduction of me, and then we can go on. Thanks, Abhishek.
Sure. Thanks. Thanks for giving us a glimpse of what you do. I'm sure you'll open up more on what you do and how you do, and I'll be more interested to know that why you do it, because the first question which I would want to ask is, why did you choose what you are doing right now? And if not this, what you could have done, as a career or as as an individual.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So I have been born in a defense family.
Yeah, that's the reason I was asking, because typically anybody and everybody who has a defense background, they typically tend to go on the same stream of career and other stuff. Because my father used to work for Central Ordnance Depot, and I had a passion of getting into an army, and all my friends are into army and air force. But when I look at you, looking at your father's illustrious career, how he has served in the army, I'm sure you would have been pushed to join army and carry that baton forward. So I would like to know more on that part, because I kept asking you, but you always dodged me.
So on a lighter note, I was never interested to join the defense. My father was keen, so I mean, to the extent that before the examination, I was so he sent me to somebody to prepare for the SSB, or the service selection, right? So I gave an interview, but I went and wrote the examination with a half-hearted mindset, and I did not clear the written examination. So the SSB, of course, did not happen. So yeah. So I was never keen to join the forces, and I started my career with a company called Forbes Gokak Limited, which was a Tata Group company at that point of time. We had a 1-year cross industrial training at that point in time, something similar to Tata Administrative Services, and I was, after that 1 year of induction training, I wanted to get into some of their FMCG or consumer durables, businesses at that point in time. But I was pushed into shipping and logistics. So because they used to induct a batch of management trainees and decide where they want to be pushed. So I started my career with shipping and logistics. Did shipping and logistics for a couple of years, but I was always interested in technology. On the technology side, evolving. So either FMCG, consumer durables, or my next, love or interest was technology. So I read up and I attended interviews at that point of time, trying to get out. And then I got into B2B portals and marketplaces, right? B2B and B2C. So I joined a technology company at that time. To cut through the chase, I've been in varied roles. Like I said, I've been in partnerships and alliances. I've been in business development. I've been in in P&L roles where I've driven the overall accountability for revenues, uh, right? I've also, of course, the last decade and a half, I've been in sales. Um, Very interestingly, I had once I had switched on to sales. There's a friend of mine who was talking to me in the car, and he was saying that I don't know why people get into sales. And then I had to kind of calm him down, and I said, "Listen, I think you've forgotten that I'm in sales." Right? So that's the impression which people have about sales, that oh, it's very there's a lot of pressure. So there are pros and cons of anything, but I enjoy my profession. I enjoy what I do, because in a nutshell, sales gives you a, gives you basically that kick that you're getting money for the company and for yourself, so you're making a difference to the company, right? That's the biggest kick, and plus there is a fair amount of flexibility, because if you're getting the numbers, it's good. If you're not getting the numbers, we're all under pressure. You've seen that. So I like I like being in sales. I like making a difference, and earning my paycheck, so to say. So it's a good career for any of us to take up. That's what I feel.
So, speaking of pressure, the question, the first statement that I made for you is that I love the way you keep your persona very calm and composed. So, speaking of pressure, how do you cope up with the pressure that you get day in and day out from from various people who are around you, who are be it work or at home, or even outside traffic. So how do you do that? Because whenever I come to Delhi, I'm always with you driving across NCR, and I've never seen you shouting on people who are just you know, crossing your car and all. I personally cannot, tolerate people, violating traffic signals, but I never see you, losing your cool, and even in office or in any way, I don't see you doing that. How do you manage that?
I can relate with what you're saying, because an earlier colleague in my previous company used to tell me that you're a different type of a Delhiite or a North Indian, because you are the perception of North Indians is very different, right? Or Punjabis and Delhiites is very different, that they're more aggressive. So I'll be honest to you in this podcast. I think I've not always been like this. I've had my share of losing my cool in meetings. I've had my share of even walking out of meetings, right? The partner meetings, for example. I mean, I remember a meeting when I was with Airtel with a partner. I just walked out. I said, not done. And I and the concerned person in Airtel, he had to coax me and the partner to come back in and continue the meeting. So I've had my share of losing my patience, but I've realized, Abhishek, over the years, that being impatient and being impulsive doesn't help anybody, right? So it may you may think that you're winning the battle at that point of time, but you really don't. You can remain calm and still win the battle, so to say, or prove your point in a different way, even if you have to, because if right now, for example, if you and me have an argument, and if I have to prove my point in raising my voice to you, right, you may take back a grudge. But if I prove it in a different way and I'm calm right now, and over a couple of interactions, you probably realize the fact that I had some essence in what I was talking to you about, or what I was telling you, then you'll probably take back a positive vein. So that's the reason why I've evolved over the years. I've also tried out meditation. I don't say that I do meditation regularly. I've been bad at being regular in meditation, but but I still use it as a tool when when I get very flustered. I start meditating, and I do it for a few days, and I think that has a lot of power to calm the person down. So just a couple of straightforward secrets, so to say.
Well, that was insightful, and I think, yeah, I mean, I wish I can, have your kind of patience, while dealing with morons, I would say, who do not prefer to, follow rules or follow the norms, and always ready to, flout a laid down rule which everyone should be, following. But anyways, I mean, let's move on with this topic, and the next thing which I would want to, ask you is. About the transformation journey that you have been through. I would want to ask about how it all started and why it started, and what actually made you think to go ahead and transform yourself or get into that take that first step, because I mean it's very difficult. I've seen people. I mean, I mean, not now, but at least a year back, I was quite fit. I was doing a lot of fitness related activities, etc. So I can relate to that thing that the first step that you take is the most toughest thing that you had to come across, because getting up, going for for a regime, changing your diet plan and doing all sorts of things, that is kind of a it could be a nightmare for some of us. So just if you can just elaborate and tell your transformation journey and why it has started, what actually inspired you, and who inspired you, and how did you do it? You can just talk more on that.
Sure, sure. So this is a subject which is definitely very close to my heart, and because I've been through this journey, so thanks for asking me that. So, uh, my previous job, where I was traveling very extensively. I was in a sales role again, and I was traveling very extensively, and sometimes on an average, about 3 times a week, 3 days a week, to be more precise. And outside food, all of that got into me, and which led to a day where I was just sitting down and I was working, and my head was spinning. So I checked my blood sugar, which was very high, and I went to the doctor. Right, so I was not a diabetic. I'm not a diabetic today, just to clarify. But I went to the doctor, and the doctor said that well, you need to start statins for cholesterol after all the tests, and you need to start the other medication, which is the diabetic medication, the glyphosate. And I came back home and I said that no, I don't want to do it. So the traditional mindset is my wife, my parents, there was hell in the house, and they said that no, nothing doing. I mean, it's not about you, it's about us, and you're not being careful about us. So I said, all right, you give me 3 months. So that was actually a pact which I had in my house. I said, you give me 3 months, and within these 3 months, if I reverse this, right, then then I will not go ahead with medication. But in 3 months, in 90 days, if I'm not able to reverse it, then I'll do what you say and I'll start my medication. But for 3 months, I will not. Right. So
So that
I
was the
tried
trigger point, basically.
literally a trigger point. So I and I'd gone to, by the way, I'd gone to 3 doctors, very eminent doctors, all of which gave me the same view that no, you should start statins and medication. So I tried everything after that. I tried the keto diet. I tried other different diets. I read up a lot, and so I joined a keto program, for example, and for 3 months. But the second or third week down the line, I went and told the keto specialist, saying that I'm going to modify your plan and I'm going to do a modified keto, which means a low carb, low fat, and a moderate protein. That's not keto. Keto is high fat,
High
you
fat, high
know,
protein,
and high protein, right? And ultra low carb. So
ultra low carb. Yeah.
I modified that, and I made certain solid lifestyle changes. We can come, discuss that later. Solid lifestyle changes. Lot of
Like
exercise.
what? I mean, if you can just explain it to the people for the sake of the people who are watching us.
So lifestyle changes, as in, I stopped having roti. I stopped having rice completely. I switched from roti to alternative grains like jowar, bajra, amaranth, right? Joe. So the atta would be made by a combination of these at home. Then instead of rice, I adopted millets, which is the barnyard millet, kodo millet, and foxtail millet, and there are different millets which are there, which you can boil it just like rice and have it. So, and then 25% of my plate in the afternoon used to be salads necessarily. So these kind of changes I made about, and a fair amount of combination of strength training and brisk walking or intermittent running, as they say. So I did all of that, and
I'll just stop you there. Why? Because I just want you to elaborate it, because for the sake of the people who are watching, and I'm sure there are hundreds and thousands of people who are daily getting up and looking themselves at the mirror and then saying, okay, today is the day I'm going to change. But then they again get back to their breakfast table and start hopping those parathas, those puris, and that frame of mind goes away. So why I'm asking you, what I'm going to ask you, and the reason why I'm asking you is because I want you to explain the viewers that how difficult it was for you to start with, and how long it took you to go ahead with this this entire regime, and how many days you hit the gym, how many kilometers you walk, because you said that you gave yourself 3 months, 90 days. So how much effect it made on your on your weight, on your health and all. If you can elaborate more on that, that will actually give more insight to the people who actually are looking at this kind of transformation, and who are actually looking to make a difference in their health.
Sure. So I lost about 23, 24 kilos at that point of time.
In 90 days.
In 90 days. No, not in 90 days. Overall in about 6 to 8 months, I lost that much.
Okay.
But in about 90 days, I would have lost about a healthy weight loss about 10 to 12 kilos, which
is good. I mean, which is very good actually. 3 months, 10 kgs are super awesome, I would say.
Correct. And my greatest inspiration, Abhishek, continues to be my father. So in fact, he was covered by Goki. Vishal Gundal had covered him in an interview, and he used to be on newspaper advertisement. So he's 80. He lost a lot of weight, sometime before or after that. So he's been an inspiration, but not only during that time frame. When I grew up, or as I was growing up, I've seen my father at one point of time to be a chain smoker. I and kicked the cigarette butt at one fine day, just deciding, okay, I'm just going to throw the cigarette. I'm not going to have it again, and he never touched it. Right, never touched it. I have seen my father to be very fond of his drinks, and deciding to leave the drinks, and for the last 3, 4 decades not touch a drop at all. At least the last 2, 3 decades, I've seen him completely. So a lot of that willpower I would attribute, whether it's genes or its inspiration, comes from my father. The other thing is that how much did I, on your question, how much did I run or whatever? So when I read up on what I really need to do, I realized that I need to exercise morning and evening. So during those 3 months, I took out half an hour at least in the morning and evening. Walking or running would be about 4 to 5 kilometers. Cycling, I would do cycling at times, and I also went during that time for something like a 50 or a 60 kilometer cycling. I was not into that at all. So that, and strength training would be about a 45, 50 minutes routine. right? I hired a personal trainer who used to come home and used to do the equipment. So it's a mix of everything which made the change. Because what I truly believe, and to cut to the chase, uh, you know, it's not about whether roti and rice is good or bad, right? That's not the point. All of us have been used to, but when you're trying to make a lifestyle change and you're trying to adapt your body responds to signals which are more often a norm rather than an exception. So if you're going to be loading on carbs every day, then your body is going to be literally responding to the signal that, all right, he's eating a lot of carbs, so I need to
Let's
convert
store
these
it
carbs to fat.
into fat. Yeah.
Right? Whether it's visceral fat or whatever it's usually visceral, so it converts it into fat. But gradually, if you start, so for example, I have more of millets and more of alternative grains, and once or twice a week, on an exception, I have rice or roti. The body says that, all right, generally he's at a healthy routine. So the
Mhm.
entire body metabolism changes. And that
Yeah,
creates
definitely.
so that's what I've seen.
Definitely. Mhm.
And this is a continuous process. I mean, we've been discussing. So I've told you. Uh, so I had reached a weight of about 70, which was ideal, right? I mean, with my BMI now I'm about 78, so I still have to reduce about 7-8 kilos. So, and I've started my journey to get back there. And 3 months down the line, you'll see that I've kind of become far more healthier than what I'm today. So I'm driven, and I hope, very humbly, I think I will be able to do it.
No, definitely you'll be. And is this especially because of the book that you are going to launch and you want to be, be picture perfect for that, or how's it? And please tell us more about this book and what inspired you to launch. I mean,
Yeah,
write this
yeah.
book and about the podcast. I mean, the audio podcast that you are running right now.
I promised you to be very candid and frank in this conversation, but
Of course.
so to be honest, for the podcast, the cover art, I had to hunt around for pictures for each of these episodes, and I started realizing. I'm looking fat in these pictures, and I realize that I do need to lose some weight. So jokes apart, yeah. So what inspired me on this podcast? So there's a friend of mine, Sandeep Roy. He's a finance head for Asia Pacific and Middle East, India, Asia Pacific and Middle East for a leading international airline. Uh, so and he's been a college friend. So he thought that I'm a good public speaker. He thought I have good literary skills. I used to be, I mean, during college days for all the 3 years, I used to be an editor of the college magazines, and the final year I was the chief editor. So he knows all of that. So he'd been telling me that, Akhil, write a book, write a book, write a book. So now when all this happened in terms of my weight loss, I said, all right, why don't I look at this topic? So what I'm going to be covering in the book, I've have it about 70-80% complete, and I am going to be covering my story. It's going to be something like a mini Bible on what you really need to do. So all what we've shared, and lots more chapters on seeds, chapters on exercise, right? So it's going to be it's going to be covering all what you need to do to be fit, in my perspective, and the remaining half, or there's going to be an entire section on real life, real inspirations, people who have inspired me in my journey or who continue to inspire me. So I started doing that. Then somewhere down the line, the book took a backseat. So uh, personal reasons, professional, pressures. And I had some of these 5 or 6 episodes already recorded. So I decided to launch the podcast first, and then the book will soon follow. That's what it is.
So how soon we can expect your book to be on the stands? Because I want a signed copy from you, so I'm looking forward for it.
Yeah, you'll have to wait for about 4 to 6 months, because I'm now finding a better publisher. So I'm doing a little detailed, a more due diligent round. So let's wait for 4 to 6 months. It'll be there.
So just tell me about that story which you're telling me, and I'm sure this delay is because of that story itself that you mentioned a couple of weeks back that your son came up with the idea of publishing his own set of poetries, and he was so immaculate and professional about it that you had to think. I mean, just tell us about those stories, because I think that actually led to this delay of 4 months, right? If I'm
Yeah,
not
I
wrong.
mean, you're right. I was. So during the pandemic, I had signed up with a publisher, which said that it's going to be a print to order, and the way the world is running is that people are not going to buy books from the stands, you go to Amazon, Flipkart, you buy the book from there. And then you learn so much from kids these days. And he one day came to me and he said that, so he's writing his second book. He published a book of poetry. He's writing his second book, and he said that, Papa, why don't you? Here is how much you need to pay to a literary agent. So I said, all right, I'll speak to the literary agent. He says, no, I've already spoken. I've already done the due diligence. Right? So you just go ahead and pay. You're
You
the
just
18.
have to pay.
Yeah, you're the ATM. Go ahead and pay. So I said, no. I have to do my groundwork. I have to speak, and that's when I contacted the literary agent, and I had a conversation with him, and I realized what my son was saying was correct. And I realized that this is a good way to go, because the literary agent then represents you in front of publishers. So it's a little longer haul, because you need to, do what the literary agent says. But I think it's worth the time and the money spent. So that's the story which you were asking me.
I mean, the other day you told me, and since you're telling me now that you're going, I mean, I'll have to wait for another couple of months. So that's what I thought, that maybe that story is connected to this thought process. But
Yeah.
I mean, speaking of kids, like, what do you think about today's generation? I mean, their thought process, how they are. What do you think of them? I mean, are they going the right way, or what's your thought on them?
I
Because
think
there's a
that
huge cultural difference. Earlier, when we were kids, we never had access to these, expensive video games, or these kind of internet, and we never had access to these tablets and all. Now everything is on their lap, so they are far more experienced than we are. They have access to the entire world. We never had that chance. Now we are doing it now, but I mean, at least we are kind of matured enough, and now we are looking, exploring things based on our need. But kids are like, they are doing anything and everything that comes to their way. So, and like you said, that you never had a chance to understand that there is a concept called literary agent, and now through your kid. So, what exactly your thoughts on the present generation we call Gen Z per se?
no, that's a very good question. So Abhishek, when we grew up, as you rightly said, or at least when you're much younger, when I grew up in my generation, and yours also probably to an extent later, uh, uh, there was there was so much of focus on traditional streams, right?
Yeah.
Engineering, medicine, right? People will scoff at you and say that, all right, oh, you're not doing engineering, you're not doing medicine, that means you're not there. To the fact that now there is such a plethora of streams. So that's one thing, right? I mean, a few months back, a friend of mine said that her son is going to John Hopkins for some music course, right, for his
Oh.
graduation. So, I mean, you hear about such streams which are so diverse. That's one element. The second thing is, with the exposure, whether it's internet, social media, uh, right, and even schools are different. I mean, something as simple as the fact that look at the class photographs of student children today, right? We used to all stand in a line,
Yeah.
first row, second row, third row, and then the photographer will click. You look at the photographs of the current generation. They'll be standing whichever way. They'll be doing a V or whatever, right? Or looking at each other, and those are their class photographs. So anyway, A, they have a lot of exposure. B, they have a point of view, right?
Mm.
And and they want to learn by their own, right? Even when my son wrote his first book, he didn't even come to me asking that, tell me, I'm trying to write my book or whatever. What is the way? How does the publishing industry work? The current generation is taking decisions, faltering on them or being successful in them, learning, through the ropes, and then so they're far more confident than what we could ever be, right? So, and on the flip side, it's really, really very difficult, to influence the kids on any stream or whatever you really want to do. You and me or our earlier generations were far more coachable. So
Yeah.
I really think that I just go with the benefit of doubt, right? So I may or may not be happy. Again, being candid, I may or may not be happy on whether my son has taken the right stream or not. I might have wanted him to do something else, but I'm go by the benefit of doubt that maybe he knows better on what he wants to do himself, right? And that's in a nutshell what the current generation is all about today.
Yeah, I mean, when I even talk to people like the small kids, I think that I'm kind of like 10 years behind them. The way they pick up things and the way their aptitude works. But having said that, I mean, with the technology at their disposal and all, there are a lot of woke culture coming in. We keep hearing things. People are talking about gender neutrality. Somebody is referring himself it or something like that. I mean, and especially there's a I don't know. You call it like pseudo feminism way, which is biting these younger people. How do you see that? I mean, do you think this pseudo feminism is actually going to, benefit our society, or is it going to break the families and it is going to, break the overall, Indian ethos and culture that we have, ingrained for so many thousands of years?
Very, very important point. So if you talk about pseudo feminism or women's lib or whatever you call it, right? So I think it's taking an unprecedented focus on importance in the industry or in companies today. So I'm not saying that there should not be equitable jobs for women. What I'm trying to say is that at the fundamental mindset, there is no difference between women and men.
Yeah,
Fundamental, right?
true.
So there's fundamentally no difference. Then what is the requirement of stating that, listen, women should be empowered, women should be given special jobs, right? It's like so that defeats the purpose. I think we are taking that too far.
I think, I mean, just adding to what you are saying, I think women are already empowered. In fact, women empower men. It's never the other way around that a man should empower a woman, because a woman gives birth to a man or a child. He or and she takes care of the child and brings him up and then teaches the manners and everything. So it's the woman who is already empowered. And maybe somebody is talking in terms of giving equal pay and all that stuff. So when we talk about equal pay, other stuff, we have to see the other aspects. Like the other day I was listening to some of the podcast and talking to some of the people. They were simply saying that why women are not being paid equally. Now I'm not sure how many women are ready to go and sweep the sewers or get inside the sewer and clean them, or how many women are ready to clean the glass of Burj Khalifa, right? So I mean, though, if you technically look at that, the average salary for a man could be more, but then if you look at the kind of job a man does, is quite dangerous, and probably a woman would not want to get into there, because that's not how they are genetically made, or whatever it could be. I'm not going to get into a gender war and all, but when I look at these thought processes coming out from people, especially the new age people like the Gen Z, they are very much focused on what people in the US are talking about, not how how our society functions. So that's something I personally think that it's going to split our society, split things, and especially people are now coming up with gender fluidity. That is something which makes me crazy and think about like what exactly people are trying to do. I mean, we already have a third gender, and in our Sanatan Dharma, we already have various. I mean, all the kind of genders and all the kind of sexualities which are already defined and accepted. If you see Ardha Nareshwar, it's nothing but a form of a third gender. Now people are like, you are transphobic, and Hindus are transphobic, or Indians are transphobic. There's nothing like that. So I mean, but these new, I mean, so-called new concepts are coming to us from the West, and people are actually getting confused, and and I think they're confused because they're too much into the Western culture, they're too much into the Western, the content, and they have no idea that what our culture and what our tradition is, and how those things are already ingrained and accepted into our society. That's what
Yeah,
my views are.
yeah. I'm not very sure on that part. To be frank, in terms of, see, if you're looking at gender fluidity, or what a person really is and where his disposition really is, I think that may be something which is personal to that individual.
Yeah,
So I mean,
of course.
so
But
so
people are
so
actually forcing, no, call me it.
yeah,
It's very strange. But
correct.
anyways, I think we have crossed the time limit that we have set for ourselves. We have crossed around 40 minutes. So let's wrap this session, and probably we'll have one more with you. So thanks for giving your time for my first podcast. I hope people would have got some good information from your transformation journey. How did you, go about it? What steps you took? And definitely, if people will want to know, I'm going to put the links of your podcast, and definitely when the book comes on the stands, I'll definitely put its link, the online, purchase link in the description. So thanks, Akhil, for joining me, and thanks for giving the support for my first video podcast. I'll put it online as soon as I have the recordings available. And thanks everyone for listening to it, watching on the YouTube. And I hope you enjoyed it. If you want me to talk on some specific topic, and if you have any, if any one of you want to be part of this podcast, please let me know. I'll be more than happy to bring you onto my stage, because it is all about anything or everything. I mean, about anything but famous. I'm no one, and but at the same time, I want to bring those people onto this platform who are making impact in my life, and they have been inspiration for many other people, but they are not known to other person. So I would want them to be on this platform, and if they can guide others, and give some kind of inspiration. And that's the only small aspiration that I have from this podcast. So thanks once again. Thanks, Akhil.
Thank
We'll
you.
speak
Thank
to
you,
you
Abhishek.
later.
It was great to be a part of your first podcast, and wishing you all the very best.
Thank you. Don't close that browser. It is still uploading.
Recording is stopped.
Recording has stopped. I mean, recording. So anyways, I will stop it now.